Welcome, Wolverine Nation, to the last week of Fantasy Football Waiver Wire. I'm Jake Camejo.
I'm Victor Torres.
And I'm Matthew Barturin.
Guys, last show, what are you guys' thoughts?
I'm a little upset, but I'm very happy. You know, we ran a good show our senior year. I think we pulled off some upsets.
We'll get to the goodbyes before the show ends. But what about football? What do you guys think about football?
I think
Dolphins lost, Saints win.
I think be quiet. I think the Patriots deserve the hard hat because they need to rebuild. What happened? What happened this week? It was disastrous. Did you see the loss?
It worked out in our favor.
I mean, I'll take it. I'm gonna take it.
Division loss,
but man, what is?
Yeah, I don't know
what
happened there.
That was Jacoby Myers with the throw of the year.
He tried to make
to the defense.
He tried to make a play, and it didn't work.
Did not work. Far from it.
He could have just gone overtime. But other than that, the winners of last week, it's tied because we'll let you guys decide. But my sit had 8 points, Chris Olave, sadly, but Saints win, so I'm happy. Start Justin Fields, 23. Jameson Williams, 0 points. Now, Matt, you say your stats, Matt.
All right, so my pickup, Jerick McKinnon, 34 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Sit, Nick Chubb, had 9, so those are my 2 hits. And then
Your start did absolutely nothing.
my start, Miles Sanders, as per usual, going like this, had 2 points. So yep.
So, well, let's see. So we'll both get ahead here for a second. So 1, 2, 3 for me, and then.
Yeah, I got you. No, my picks were terrible.
Appreciate
Picks
it.
were terrible.
Yeah, mine were bad.
So I mean, guys, congrats, Matt. You know, taste of victory, sweet victory.
'Cause it's sweet. Let's not get
Exactly,
copyrighted
it's
here.
not gonna copyrighted here. But let's get right into our pickups, guys.
For the last time.
For the last time. Now I know you guys probably won't like this, but you might like this because Saints fan. But Raheed Shaheed, the man, the myth, the legend. He's a deep threat, young receiver. He's gonna be the Deontay Harris replacement or Deontay Hardy at this point. Deontay Hardy replacement in the Saints offense. And this guy's electric. He makes the big plays on the field. You just saw a 68-yard touchdown against a weaker secondary, but still 68 yards is tough.
68 yards.
It's 68 yards touchdown. And every time he touches the ball, I feel like a big play is about to happen. In the Raiders game, he had a 50-yard run. In the Cardinals game, first drive of the game had like a 70-yard touchdown also. I mean,
Big play possibility is there.
exactly. And it's fantasy playoffs, and if you need
a receiver at this point.
If you need a receiver at this point, I'm sorry for you, but you're in the championship probably.
He's active in probably every.
And he's
league,
active,
right?
and if the Saints give him the ball, he's gonna make a play. He only has like 15, 16 catches and almost 400 yards.
Which
with
is
2 touchdowns.
That's crazy.
It's volume.
Yeah, it's like 370, 375 around there. This guy, and last week 3 catches, 95 yards and touchdown. So the big play, deep threat, mini Tyreek Hill. That's the future Saints Tyreek Hill, and
That's not at all the same thing.
No,
but-
it's far from
all
it. But you know what? I like Tyreek Hill, so I guess I like Raheed.
rookie Tyreek Hill, rookie Tyreek
He
Hill.
was a punt returner.
Also probably one of the top 5 names in the league.
Raheed Shaheed.
Raheed Shaheed.
Come on.
Let's go, baby.
Love that.
Who was one of the top 5 pickups this week, Victor?
So I'm taking. I'm gonna run with my same track as last week. A former Cane. I'm throwing out KJ Osborne. Now a name that we've consistently seen, I think since last year.
Yeah, definitely.
Last year he stepped onto the scene big time for the Vikings. So he hasn't seen some super valuable targets this season, but he went off against the Colts. Obviously they had that disastrous first half where you could see right here they have 0 points in the middle of the third quarter. But he was a huge part of their 36-point, 39-point comeback. 16 targets with 10 catches, 157 yards, and the touchdown that you're currently watching. He played a very big role in that short game. So he had 16 targets. That's an absurd amount. And as the wide receiver 3, mind you, there's Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, 2 consensus elite receivers ahead of him. And Jefferson had a nagging injury that took him out of the game. He was out a little bit at the start of the third quarter. He played the whole game or the rest of the game after that. But Osborne got a lot more of the reps, a lot more of the targets, and that Vikings offense is explosive. So I think for the rest of the year, if you're really in a spot where you need a receiver, I think KJ Osborne's a pretty solid option because his past couple weeks is when he had an 11-target game, and he's declined a little bit since then, but he's getting valuable targets. And then this week, obviously, he had his blow-up game. So I think it's a super valuable pickup, and it's totally worth it, especially if you have Thielen or Jefferson at this point. Just
like
as an anchor,
It's like a link. It's like what's the word when like running back? When you draft running backs, you always buy the backup.
Yeah.
If the starter
We know what you're talking about.
I mean, and KJ Osborne every year since his rookie year, even since his rookie year, he
does this every once in a while.
Every especially late in the season.
Yeah, he'll
just
have this stretch
he's
of
always
like
a
being
great
the
games.
good receiver. So I think obviously I love KJ Osborne. I watched him when he was at
me too.
Miami, but I think it's a valuable pickup if you need a receiver this late in the year. So
I mean,
Yeah, that game was crazy last week.
the Vikings, again, we can't
Colts.
excuse that game. That was elite.
That was
Matt Ryan is cursed, man.
dude, like
he's
broke his own record there.
Yeah.
Feel bad for the guy at this point.
Jake, speaking of receivers, I think we're about to go on a 3-way streak of receivers. How about it, man?
We are. So my pickup is Drake London.
Boo.
All right, guys. All right. So I know a lot of people have dropped him after this terribly frustrating season, being on the Atlanta Falcons, a struggling offense the whole year. That includes myself. I'm speaking from personal experience. It's been very frustrating not having him produce at all. But the last 2 games, he's kind of had, a little bit of a bump up in production. 15 points and then 12 points last week. Has seen a dramatic increase in targets with 12 and 11 in each of those 2 games.
With 2 different quarterbacks.
With 2 different quarterbacks. That's why my next point, does Desmond Ridder cause a Drake London resurrection in terms of volume?
Yes.
Last week, he targeted him 11 times in his debut. He relied on him a lot, and as a rookie quarterback, you rely on the guys that you trust. So, I think...
they were roommates in camp, so, I'm sure he trusts him with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say that like, since they are both rookies, they're kind of like forced to play with each other at first. And then now that Ridder's stepping up into that position, he's like, okay, Kyle Pitts is hurt, so I don't have my number 1 option. Let me give it to the guy that's, 6'5", runs a 4.6.
And honestly, I think this is long overdue. Drake London is a very talented receiver, has a lot of potential to be a great receiver in this league.
He was my pickup earlier in the year, I think, or my start, yeah.
Yes, he had a very high ceiling, but he's kind of fallen through the floor a little bit the whole year. But I think now he maybe he gets a little bit of a resurrection in production.
I think the Falcons are in explosion mode, so I think maybe they just doesn't. I mean, obviously throwing out Desmond Ridder, just see what they got. I think now they got to say,
And he looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did look good. He had 95 yards, but I mean,
Falcons.
We were talking about with Mr. Mazda here earlier. He said it's like when Ian Book last year came in for the Saints, he looked like he was a mess, and he couldn't.
The lights were too bright.
He did. Yeah, lights were too bright.
But what can you do?
Desmond Ridder came in and he didn't look bad. He looked in
That's
calm.
your first NFL game.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got to take the first rookie performance this late in the season with a grain of salt. It's like,
and also,
what can you do?
And also, when it's come to question of quarterback, it's gonna be Desmond Ridder for the rest of the season. Because Marcus Mariota just had knee surgery to spend more time with his wife, with wife and daughter who was just born about a week ago. So congrats to him, but he's done for the season. So Desmond Ridder, I think, is gonna grow a little bit. I mean, this guy at Cincinnati, we saw him.
Hopefully he comes in the future.
Desmond Ridder, sleeper pickup.
Sleeper pickup, maybe next year. Sleeper draft.
Drafty.
If you need a quarterback, I guess. Good future maybe in Atlanta with those 2.
I think Ridder's starting obviously, but Jake, where are you starting in fantasy this week?
We were talking about the Colts versus Vikings game earlier. I'm going with the Colts side, the collapse. Michael Pittman Jr. Now, here's a guy who early in the season was pretty bad. The Colts offense was horrible under Frank Reich, which is usually weird because Frank Reich's the offensive head coach. But then when Jeff Saturday comes, it feels like this Colts offense has resurged back to a
compatible offense.
Afloat. It keeps the team afloat, which they lost. But he had 10 receptions. 10 receptions, that's out of this world. And 60 yards, which isn't crazy. I mean, as I said, the Colts offense has gone up. And his matchup is against the Los Angeles Chargers. And the Los Angeles Chargers defense is...
Suspect, to say the least.
I said mid. In my notes, I said plays a mid Chargers defense.
We'll leave that as it is.
We'll leave that as that, exactly. I mean, this is a big guy from USC. He's a young receiver. Matt Ryan, trusting him, hopefully more targets in the red zone, which early on in his career, he was a red zone machine. And, I mean, 10. If he gets 10 targets a game, that's
good volume. I think the biggest thing.
That's 16 points.
The biggest thing with Michael Pittman is that What's his name? Jonathan Taylor's hurt. So
Exactly.
now they're gonna run the ball. They ran the ball with Zach Moss and Deion Jackson. It felt like 100 times against the Vikings. But
They were supposed to
when you're
the clock out there.
yeah, but when you're not up 33 and you don't have your star running back, how many times are you gonna run the ball to 2 backup running backs? Michael Pittman's due for. They're gonna. I imagine they'll be throwing a lot more. So Michael Pittman's due for some big catches, and I don't think any of the Chargers corners have like big body guys. Like none of them.
Maybe Asante Samuel Jr. can lock him down, but I don't think other than
But he's more like a speed guy. Like not really throw it up. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So I like the Pittman start.
Oh, I appreciate that, Victor. I wonder if I'm gonna like who's your start.
You actually might not like, but we're going on our 5-streaker receiver right now because I got DJ Moore. That's why I know you won't like this one. So in terms of fantasy wide receivers, probably in the bottom 5, or I guess top 5 of most disappointing guys. But he's had a very quiet season, nothing phenomenal. Obviously, he's had his big give him his flowers moments, but nothing that kind of stands out.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he's had the bad quarterback play. He's had the bad everything.
3
Carolina's a disaster. Darnold, he's not the guy. I don't think Darnold is elite. Excels him.
Not been playing bad.
Excels exactly. Yeah, he hasn't played. He hasn't played terrible, and I think he's kind of just like, hey, DJ Moore's a good receiver. I should probably give him the ball. Unlike the 3 other quarterbacks that DJ Moore's had. This past week versus the Steelers, 6 targets for 5 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. He's seeing a lot more volume recently, and they played Detroit at home. Detroit. I've talked about Detroit a lot in here. We love Detroit. They're on a nice little win streak, but that defense is bad. It's really bad. It's just been struggling. Okuda's been out. Amani Oruwariye has been out, and their secondary, their safeties are just like, what's going on? The secondary's not that good. What's going on, And the Panthers are similar to most of the teams we talked about today. Panthers are in full-on blow-up mode. Let's see what we can do. Hey, DJ Moore, give him the ball.
Yeah.
Let's just see. Mm-hmm. Because I think at this point they're just trying to keep DJ Moore for a contract also because, if I'm DJ Moore, I'm trying to get out of Carolina. But in all scenarios where I think Darnold is kind of finally stepping into a role of like, hey, I should live up to being a 3rd overall pick. I think DJ
Sorry,
Moore.
I just teased it.
Darnold's finally stepping into that role of like, okay, I was the 3rd overall pick. I should probably play good now. DJ Moore's kind of been his guy. So I think in terms of value, DJ Moore, bad defense, Darnold possibly has that.
A good game.
He has the oomph in him to give DJ Moore his 10 targets, his little end zone catch.
Yeah.
I think it's super valuable to have DJ Moore, and I get it. He's been at most a flex option for most people this year since probably week 5.
Yeah.
So I think I have a lot of faith in DJ Moore as just a player. He's got all the talent in the world. It's just lack of production from quarterback play. Bad situation. But he's in a situation where he's getting you fantasy points because it's playoffs this week, baby.
Yeah. I agree with you there, Victor.
Agreed.
Let's see if we can agree with Matt this time.
Let's see if it's another receiver.
Well, it is another receiver.
Woo!
6 in a row. 6.
I'm going to start Devontae Smith this week.
Ooh.
So the last 3 games,
Had a good game
well,
last week.
obviously, let's start out with that Devontae Smith has been kind of a roller coaster this year.
Yeah.
Especially with A.J. Brown taking all the targets and all the running done by Jalen Hurts. But the last 3 games, Devontae Smith has had 21 points, 17 points, and 17 points again. Great productions recently. Also, in all 3 of those games, he has caught 5 of 8 targets. So the same production in all games. And fantasy-wise, Dallas, who is his next opponent, is 16th against receivers this year, which is surprising considering I feel like Dallas's defense is obviously one of the top defenses.
But the Jaguars just went all over them.
In terms of fantasy production, they allow quite a bit of points to receivers. So Devontae Smith has been very consistent over the last 3 weeks, and I think he can keep it going. The Eagles are rolling right now. So.
Yeah, they're on a nice little winning streak. Dallas Goedert may or may not come back this week.
I think he's done for this season.
No, he was supposed to come back this week. They didn't want to play him though, so this might be his week back. But even then, I think they've fallen back a lot more on the passing game rather than the throwing game. Mm-hmm. And plays like this, they give Smith just short little dinks and dunks, trying to give him the ball.
Is unmatched.
And there's that play. I don't know if it's popped up here on the screen where he mossed someone. I think.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Even
for his being, he's 150 pounds soaking wet. The guy is a big not big, but he plays like he's a bigger receiver. He plays like A.J. Brown does. Like he plays just, I'm going to get this ball. When the ball's in the air, he wants to go get it. I like how he plays. I love Devontae Smith. So I think it's a super good start.
Appreciate that.
And I think, Trayvon Diggs is going to be on A.J. Brown. Who's the cornerback too? Is it Anthony Brown?
Yeah, he's
Kelvin Joseph?
He got torched.
They're all the if your name's not Trayvon Diggs, that Cowboys cornerback room is really bad. So I like it. It's a good start.
Great.
Let's break that receiver streak, Jake. Who's your sit?
Yeah, my sit's a guy who's been having a great season, especially later on in the year. He's a rookie. It's Kenneth Walker III. Kenneth Walker III, it may be surprising to some of you. He's a great receiver. Great running back. This guy, I remember when he first played against the Saints, he went off. He had a late season injury recently, and I just don't think the Seahawks are that kind of organization to just. They just had this. I mean, Chris Carson just.
Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, two of their younger guys.
Two of the young guys are both like. Chris Carson retired, obviously, but you don't want to waste this guy's career for a playoff push. Yeah, maybe he comes back for the playoffs, but I don't think they're trying to hurt him. And he played against a great San Francisco defense. Obviously, he didn't have an amazing game. He's playing against the Chiefs defense, which isn't amazing. The D-line does have Chris Jones, top 3 D tackle in the NFL.
100%.
And the Chiefs defense isn't horrible. I mean, it's a whatever defense, but I mean, injury and the Seahawks O-line isn't amazing, but don't get me wrong, they've taken huge steps this year.
Yeah.
And they've
sure.
they've played a lot better. So, I mean, this is mainly the injury, and I don't really think the Seahawks are going to try to. Pete Carroll's the kind of coach to put a guy out there, even if it's a little tweaked up a little bit.
Yeah. No, I love it. Kenneth Walker obviously he was my guy. I picked him up. He's been literally my fantasy savior. I don't even think I picked him up in any league. I straight up drafted him in all my leagues because I was excited for him to possibly play. When he got his chance, he balled out this year. He was my pickup earlier in the year actually. But I think it's scary to see like you got a young guy with an injury and you just injured your other running back, and then your other entire backup running back room has been going through injuries. It's super risky to throw out Kenneth Walker like every snap. I think he's going to play a good amount. He's going to play a good game for what it's worth. But from a fantasy standpoint, like he'll get less carries. He'll get less work in the receiving game, which he already doesn't really get, to be fair. So it's a good set.
Yeah,
Thank you, Victor. Wow, Victor's been very positive today.
Dude, come on, are you kidding me? We got
Not sure we can't have any bad.
Can't go on a bad
Bad
note.
blood. Can't have any bad blood. But who's the guy who's not gonna have good fantasy production this week?
Another guy that I have personally I've used him in all my fantasy leagues and I've liked him since last year. Mike Williams, Chargers wide receiver 2, had a really, really, really quiet game against Tennessee this past week, and didn't really do much until late in the game. He had one catch until I want to say the second half, and he played all right in the second half. He had 4 catches for 60 yards maybe. And he plays in Indianapolis defense, which obviously we just saw the disaster that was Indianapolis versus
40 points.
40 points in the second half. But regardless of that, Indianapolis defense is very tough. I still think it's a good defense. And Mike Williams seemingly struggles against corners like Stephon Gilmore. And I think, I imagine Gilmore will be on him more than Keenan Allen will, because Keenan Allen's kind of more of a slot guy.
Yeah.
And they have Kenny Moore in that slot, and he's nasty. So I just think Williams, since his midseason injury, has struggled a lot. He didn't play a good stretch, and then when he did play, besides the Dolphins game where he destroyed us, he's had his really bad stretch. So I love Mike Williams, but I just don't think it's a safe start in a situation where it's like, is he really worth my wide receiver 2 spot over like Zay Jones, who's had some phenomenal games, by the way. I just want to mention, want to throw that out there. He had another 3 touchdown game. He's had some phenomenal games, but I just think Mike Williams is kind of super. It's pretty risky, just considering the defense that he's playing. I think that the Chargers O-line isn't as good as the Colts front 7, and the Colts secondary is solid enough that they're probably going to struggle. I mean, excluding the second half, Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and Adam Thielen had like 5 catches combined in that first half of the Colts game. So you put Stephon Gilmore and Mike Williams, finally a guy who goes up and plays physical with him, plays to how he plays, he will struggle, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go with you there, Victor.
Yeah, that's a good one. He's very, very good. I mean, he torched the Dolphins.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm not sitting here and saying Mike Williams is a bad receiver. I love his play style. I think he's a super talented receiver. It's just this week it like kind of scares me. He's coming back from this injury, and he just hasn't played to the level that Chargers offense has looked pretty bad. So it's a risk in consideration of like playoffs, you know.
I agree with you there, Victor. Matt, who's the guy that's not gonna do good this week?
So this week I'm gonna sit a tight end which is
Hurts my soul.
yeah, I know. It's George Kittle. Now, this surprising. All right, he had an outstanding performance last week with 2 touchdowns. But this is obviously risky. But he plays the #1 defense against tight ends in the league this week, which is the Washington Commanders. And in the weeks before this amazing performance, he had 5 points, then 4 points, then 6 points, and then 25 points. So, I mean, it's kind of a lack of consistency, and Brock Purdy's been awesome for this offense.
Yeah.
And he, obviously George Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the league. And, but I think with this matchup, allowing the least points to tight ends, and given the inconsistency that he's had this season, I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be as good as we think.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that if you're the offensive coordinator of the 49ers, you're looking at, okay, I'm on my third-string quarterback, and my wide receiver 1 is hurt. So you're stuck to Brandon Ayuk. Not stuck to it. This is obviously, it's a good core to have. You're with Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. They gave McCaffrey, I think, almost 30 carries the other day against the Seahawks.
I mean,
and Purdy kind of, he's pretty good, but he's done kind of the bare minimum. He doesn't have to throw 30, 40 times a game.
That's what you don't want for
yeah, obviously you don't want it.
If
you're throwing 40 times a game, I think you have bigger issues than your third-string quarterback.
Especially when you have McCaffrey back there.
Exactly. So I think they rely heavily on this run game. Who do they play, you said?
Oh, Washington.
Washington, pretty bad run defense, I'm going to be honest. Besides Daron Payne or Jonathan Allen or both of them.
That whole D-line?
I mean, no, because the rest of the guys on the I don't think the rest of the guys on their D-line are that good. But to be fair, the Niners run game is unstoppable, and it starts with George Kittle. I think it starts with Trent Williams, and then it's George Kittle. It's their 2 best blockers. They've relied a lot more on Christian McCaffrey. So and there's no Deebo Samuel for them to worry about. They're gonna be focused a lot more on Kittle. I like it. It's a solid pick. Purdy obviously relies a lot on Kittle now, especially since Deebo's out. But it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
He's pretty good.
Guys, before we end the show, any thoughts going into this week?
Nah, man, I'm just really excited. Dolphins are finally going to get back on their win streak. Hopefully.
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day game.
Christmas Day miracle, maybe.
Yeah.
To be fair, the Dolphins, I mean...
We played good against Buffalo.
We did play really well. I think Tua had a good game, despite all the Tua haters out there, which I don't appreciate.
We know who you are.
Yeah, I'm coming for you.
Oh, fuck
But I think definitely we should have ran the ball in the fourth quarter. Like, let's be honest.
That was the
up by
biggest
8
thing.
points, heavy snow. I don't know, but I mean McDaniel's the GOAT, so I'm not a football coach, guys.
We're sending the show out on a good note, man.
Yeah, and hopefully Saints win. Playing the Browns. Bad run defense. Start Alvin Kamara. He's gonna have a boom week this week. The guys on the show didn't let me start it because Saints biased, but hopefully Saints win. Maybe Saints playoff push. If they don't make playoffs, the NFC's a joke, and I would never respect anyone in the NFC except for the Saints. So I mean, hopefully they win and hopefully they keep winning. Pete Werner said they're gonna win.
We all want some wins over here, man.
Pete Werner said
all I want for Christmas is a win.
Exactly, and Pete Werner said they're gonna go 4-0, and you know what? They're 1-0 right now.
All right, let's rock it.
So maybe the prophecy is gonna be true for the New Orleans Saints.
But let's make one thing clear for the show. We are not done. We will be back for football, not for fantasy, but we will be back for football.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back.
We'll see you guys come play NFL playoff time,
For Super Bowl and stuff. I agree with you there, Victor.
But guys, I think
sadly we're gonna have to.
Jake, it's your last send off for
Yeah,
Waiver Wire.
Ever? You've been on the show for 2
Ever,
years.
yeah.
Crazy. Life comes at you fast. Serious beauty. I know. But guys, from us here at the desk, we truly appreciate everyone who's been watching. And for the very last time, sadly from all 3 of us, I'm Jake Camejo.
I'm Victor Torres.
And I'm Matthew Barterin.
And we do appreciate you guys watching this year.